50% of those were the same people. There's this crossover. And so let's say when you combine them and you have them both selected, instead of seeing 2,000, you see 1,500, right? So that would mean that, 50% of your audience you had reached in previous months. And so, and 50% was, people you hadn't reached. Obviously, that's super important, and that is enough in most cases. But there is some benefit to knowing whether you're reaching a new audience or not. And that might indicate that you can push hard on this. It might indicate, like, if you have a goal of having a more creative diversity and reaching new audiences, that CPMR can be one indicator that that's happening. And then you might be able to push harder on that. Or one argument is that, running cost caps is going to restrict the number of new people that come into your funnel, right? And that your ads reach, because you're constraining who you're willing to talk to by putting that bid cap on there. And if you can't reach them, underneath that bid, you're saying to Meta, don't go there. And so it does, I think the argument is that it can go after lower funnel audiences and just keep churning through those lower funnel audiences.
The diagnostic side of a lot of these accounts is that a lot of people are just reporting on what we all learned, like ROAS, and like that's what you're doing. And so much more of it is around how are you talking to new people? Like it becomes much more simple.
And now, let's take a listen to the Scalability School podcast.
I have a great guest today. Let me tell you, Kurt Bullock, one of my favorite advertisers, favorite people in my community, incredible human being, dad, Nike mountain bike coach, incredible partner and husband to his wife. So, Kurt, what's up, man?
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for the great intro. And mountain bike season's over, so I got a little bit more time on my hands these days.
Nice. We were just talking about what we bought for Black Friday, and obviously this is going to air another time, but we're almost, it's right before Christmas, so we're talking about what we bought. I bought a tankless water heater. I was telling the guys, which is exciting for me.
Yeah,
guys,
I was saying you're making the big moves there with that one.
Yeah, it was half off, $1,200.
That's
versus $2,400. I mean, unreal. Like plus free shipping, and it came the next day.
I was telling our team, I was like, you guys need to buy something to make your sacrificial purchase to Zuck. Make sure you click an ad first, and get involved. Buy a little something to make sure you're supporting the economy, supporting Meta, who's our, they keep us all employed.
Our sponsor.
Exactly. Yeah, basically. I will say, we bought, I have this problem where, like, I cannot wait for my wife to open up her gifts. So I just, they were sitting in my office for probably 3 days, and I was like, I can't wait anymore. You just please take them and open them, because I want you to know what you got.
Take it.
I literally can't wait. And so she opened up. So I joined Team Hexclad from a knives perspective, at least. So we have some Hexclad knives now. So that was one thing.
So you already opened them.
Oh yeah. We've got the knives open. We got these like leg sleeve recovery things. She opened everything. She's already done and opened. The kids haven't opened their stuff yet, so like we'll wait for that. But she's done. She's opened everything. Yeah. No, my final contribution was actually a couple days ago. I bought a sauna. Not a big one, but I bought one of those like pop-up ones. Ready to sweat in 2026. So that was my contribution.
Red light, or
I don't know. It's a great question. I know it's not an infrared, but it's got a heater. It gets up to like 185 degrees. So I'm just gonna slap it in my basement and see what happens.
All right, nice. That's gonna be.
What about you?
I got Tecovas boots for the wife.
Ooh.
Yes,
that's a big D2C contribution.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to do my part, and I think they're stressing over there. I got an email today, so I bought it on Black Friday. I got the email today that's like, we have bad news. We've lost however many orders. Yours was part of the orders that was lost. And so we sent out a new pair of boots today. That was just like an hour ago. I got this email, and hopefully it gets there in time for Christmas. If, you might actually get another pair of boots too. If you get two, like, hooray for you. So yeah. That was my big purchase, and a new laptop. I got a new laptop too.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, that's good customer service. So I respect that by Tecovas.
Absolutely. I know what it feels like. Yeah, I'm sure they're sweating over there with all the people, like, reaching out about their Christmas gifts. But
well, today we're talking about a lot of different things, not just what we got for holiday or for the holiday on Black Friday. We're talking about rolling reach and other metrics for scaling. I think why we wanted to talk about this, right, is media buyers plateau when they're scaling a lot. I think that happens. We know this, and people wonder why. So this is an episode about really a diagnostic deep dive for those stuck with winners that aren't scaling. And we're going to talk about diagnosis sequences, decision trees, the way that we go through things to scale. So Brad, why don't you kick us off in terms of where we're going to start? Because Kurt is a real reporting expert. He's the reporting head and guru for the Foxwell Founders membership. And actually, Kurt and I are working on a piece of software he can tell you about as well. But Brad, why don't you go ahead and kick it off?
Yeah. So we did an episode, I think it's out by now, on dashboards. And we kind of went through a similar framework for what's in our dashboard, what we pay attention to. But I think this will be a little bit unique in that we're going to kind of talk about, where we're going to go through, maybe you look at things like MER, AMER, ROAS, CPA. But at some point, those are not the only things that, I think they're some of the most important. But at some point, those don't paint the full picture of maybe what's starting to limit your scale, maybe where you can preemptively get ahead on, okay, I don't have issues now, but I might have this leading indicator of issues I may see in the future. And so I know there's big Twitter X, whatever it's called, conversations around rolling reach and cost per incremental reach and all those different types of metrics. And so I think we'll kind of dig into when ROAS isn't enough, or when you're butting up on some of these issues, where those can be helpful. So I'm like super curious how you hierarchically go through these metrics and when they start to be useful. So wherever you want to start with that, I'm sure I'll have a million questions. So please feel free.
Right on. All right. Well, I listened to the dashboard episode as well, which it was
One of our tens of
great.
listeners, Andrew, tuning in.
Yeah, I
So
love that.
I won't go over, all the same, layout, although I have a really similar process, similar layout that you outlined, on the podcast. So yeah, I guess just to paint the picture then, we do have the foundational metrics that, I'm looking at as well. You hit on the most important ones right off the bat, MER. So, media efficiency ratio or marketing efficiency ratio. AMER, which is sort of your acquisition, MER. So basically just counting revenue from new customers. And then you've got your, in platform, potentially ROAS and CPA, and then your triple whale, your North Beam, where you might be monitoring the same thing. So I'm looking at that on a day-to-day basis as well. That's kind of how I'm steering the ship. But as I started to learn more about rolling reach and everything, it was a big experiment for me initially to see what impacts what? Why do we care about this number? Of course, we're trying to reach people. And aren't our ads already reaching people? So it was interesting for me to start, learning about the contexts in which we use this and what it all means too, because I think that there's not necessarily agreement and there's variations on the type of reports that people use when they say like a rolling reach report. And I've got kind of my own variations that I was going to highlight here in the recording. But at any rate, so yes, at some point I think it also becomes maybe more important now with sort of Andromeda and Gem and the way that everything is happening, and sort of the importance of finding new pockets and new audiences in order to keep growing. And so I think that maybe put it on the radar in a way that it hadn't been, previous times. So, all right, I guess at a high level then, I like to use a rolling reach report. It can be predictive, and also you can look at it and use it as sort of a diagnostic. So it's, predictive in the sense that you are measuring how many people you're reaching. And so you're filling your funnel with these accounts reached. And so,
effectively, just to be clear for everybody, that's what a rolling reach report is. It just measures how many people over time you're reaching, right? Like that's what it is. And it's you can pull them different ways, but that's effectively what you're, because you're always trying to, if you're scaling and you're not able to scale, like we just audited a massive account in the D2C world, and worked with some founder members on that audit, and they had spent 15% more to reach 1% more people. This is what we're talking about effectively.
Yeah. And Kurt, maybe it's helpful to actually, I know there's a couple of metrics that we're going to dig into. Maybe it's helpful to start with definitions of each of those things. And then I think the diagnostic thing and how it's I'm uniquely interested in the predictive piece. So my ears perked up immediately when you said that, but maybe start with some of those quick definitions, and then we can dig into how you're using it.
Yeah, that sounds good. So The way that I use it, it might be slightly different than other people use it. So rolling reach, I look at it as the report that Meta started sending out, right? And so monthly rolling reach, they would pick a day on the calendar, usually 2 years ago, but sort of as far back as you can see in the account sometimes. And then each month, what you're doing is you're saying, to take the super simple example, month one, we reached 1,000 people. Great. Month two, if we look at month two in isolation, we reach 1,000 people, it says. But when we look at month one and month two in the selector, now Meta is going to deduplicate that and say, well, yeah, you might have reached 1,000 people in this month and 1,000, but 50% of those were the same people. There's this crossover. And so let's say when you combine them and you have them both selected, instead of seeing 2,000, you see 1,500, right? So that would mean that 50% of your audience you had reached in previous months. And so, and 50% was, people you hadn't reached. And this is extended outward. So let's say that you're on month 12 now. You would look at, what did we do last month? What did it say our reach was? And then what did we do the last 12 months, right? And then you take the difference between those and you can see what your actual net new reach was, or the new people that you reached with that spend. And so it's sort of a variation. It's a different, look at frequency as well. That's a part of it, right? And you can calculate it by using frequency. But so that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying like rolling reach. I'm usually saying it's an expanding window. So one peculiar thing about that report is that if you're looking at, uh, month one, or let's just say month six, you're looking at month six, the definition of who you've reached previously is different than if you're looking at month 12 in that report, right? They each have a different length. And so conceptually, it's pretty easy. It's like, have we ever reached them before? Yes or no, right? So that's not rough, but it is a little bit different if you're trying to compare months to each other, because you're not comparing apples to apples. And so to sort of make a distinction, I'm calling this other report the net new reach report. They're both net new reach, but just so that I can distinguish one from the other. So this other report that I like to use that we can talk about as well has, a sliding window where each month in the report looks back by some, look back window. Let's say 180 days, 6 months. So month one is you calculate it very similarly, except for instead of going back to the start of the time period, you go back 6 months for every single month in the segment. And so that window moves it slides along with the timeline, I guess, of the month that you're looking at. Is that clear in any way?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
so you're basically using, so rolling reach is when you're trying to find out, how big is the total audience we've unlocked? Are we expanding our footprint over time? How far into the market are we? Shows the total audience penetration, right? Do you think, is that a good way to summarize monthly rolling reach? And then using net new reach is, are we still reaching the same, new people this month, or are we still reaching new people this month? Let me say it more clearly. Is creative still unlocking new audiences? Because the window stays, the same length, right? It can go up or down. It's sensitive to creative fatigue and tells when you've stopped expanding, kind of too. Is that net new reach? Do you think a good way to describe that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you mentioned one really interesting thing about that second, way of doing the report with the sliding window, and that is the numbers can go up and down. Whereas if you're looking at like the first report, the monthly rolling reach with the fixed start period, at some point, at scale, your numbers generally go down every month, or you're lucky if you can maintain it. And so, how useful is that when you're trying to, run tests like, hey, we tested this new creative format. We've got this new objective traffic, this new upper funnel objective, let's say. And so the window is so large also by the end that to see the variations, it can be difficult to see what you're really doing. So that's why I like using the sliding window when I'm trying to make decisions about, hey, this is a test I'm running. How are we doing right now? Or year over year comparisons. How was this December compared to last December? But I like to use the first report if I'm looking at like market penetration, right? And saturation. So I find myself in the second report on like a weekly basis. I check it really regularly and I use it for, like you said, for making decisions about, is my creative reaching new audiences or not, where it can be maybe hard to see that with the first report.
just for, I'm going to say this back to you to make sure I'm following.
Yeah.
In the example that you gave, you've reached 1,500 people. And in month one, you've got 1,000 people. And in month two, you've got 1,000 people. So your rolling reach is 1,500 because there was a 50% overlap in month two. Your net new reach was the additional 500 people that you reached. And so if you were going to calculate, I know there's some other metrics that pop up from time to time, which is like the incremental cost per net new reach or cost per reach. The incremental cost per net new reach would be taking what you spent in total in the second month divided by the 500, which is the net new reach. And that actually tells you, and that's what, to your point, it's like if you look at this year, your cost per reach is going to look, say it's $50. But if you include last year, it's going to be something like 70, 80, not, it's going to be way more because you're going further back and it's counting the additional unique people that you've reached over that time period. And so where these reports start to be helpful is, I think the sliding one is actually super interesting because that allows you to kind of see it in these pockets. To your point, I think where this can get tricky and what has historically tripped me up is that due to just the nature of advertising is that your cost per net new reach goes up over time. Like inherently, there are less people to reach. But if you're a brand spending, I mean, I'm curious for your take on like this, maybe pockets of spend. But if you're a brand that's spending, 50 to 100K a month and you are really tapping out and your like cost per net new reach is getting really, really high, really fast, or month over month, you're not reaching a ton of net new people and you've only reached low millions of people, you probably have a problem here because you've not actually really hit much of the US as an example. What I'm curious about, and I'm sorry, I'm like sidebarring this a little bit, is do you find value in actually comparing that cost per the CPMR, right? Like on a month to month basis, like comparing this, I'm comparing January in isolation against February in isolation because I'm curious, like if my new, and maybe this is what you mean with the sliding, my new creative strategy last month, my CPMR was $50. This month, it's $40 in isolation, not rolling, right? Just in isolation. Is that how you're using it? Am I understanding that correctly?
So I guess CPMR, just also to add, one more definition, right? So that's like, instead of CPM, right, is your cost per impression. CPMR is just your cost per reach. So cost per 1,000 people reached. And one thing I love about CPMR is that you can put that column in your ads manager. So I actually use CPMR a lot. And so,
And
yeah,
CPMR is total ad spend divided by accounts reached divided by 1,000.
That's right. So for instance, when it's in my ads manager, you can start to pick up on patterns really easily because it's right there with the rest of your data you're staring at. So I like CPMR for that reason. The other thing that I noticed is that CPMR aligns really well with some of these other metrics that we care about too, like cost per 1,000 net new reach. For people that can't see my handwriting, but if you see it moving in an S shape, you'll find that your CPMR also is probably moving in that same, S shape. It may not be to the same degree, but they're very directionally correlated. And so I'll use CPMR in the ad account, and I like to use it to compare. For instance, there's talk about whether what whitelisting does for your reach. And so in most of the accounts that I've looked at, I'll see the CPMR for my whitelisted ads. Generally, if it's a good ad, much lower than sort of my account average. And so I'll use it comparatively a lot. I'm not sure that I use it as much month over month without additional context. And that additional context would be like, what's the cost of my traffic, in general, this month, and other things that, that could have an effect on that. But, I also like your ad spend level, right? It's going to change depending on how much you're spending. So if you start blasting Black Friday, spend, that might look different. And that's one more factor, to compare or to take into consideration.
All right, friends, quick break. This episode is brought to you by Northbeam, the marketing attribution platform that we love over here at the pod. And good news, Northbeam is launching Northbeam Incrementality. Northbeam Incrementality gives you automated, easy, self-service incrementality tests while protecting you from the major mistakes so many people make while running these incrementality tests. Because honestly, most of these incrementality tests are kind of a mess, right? So what I love about it is it gives you a casual truth you can act on every day, not one-off siloed reports, and it does it end to end. So it automates lift testing, it connects you with your MTA and MMM, so you can scale what works and cut what doesn't all in one dashboard. That's the real game changer. Now that Northbeam has incrementality, it means you can run the absolute trifecta of marketing measurement in one single platform, all using the same data. Northbeam incrementality launches this quarter. Get over to northbeam.io/incrementality and be the first on the list. And they're offering 50% off unlimited tests for a year to advertisers who join now. Tell them we sent you at the Scalability School. Can't wait to hear about it.
The whitelisting example is an interesting one. I'm going to ask a question which may sound like I'm skeptical, but it's because I think I know you're going to have a good answer to it. But it's like, why is ROAS not enough in that scenario? And I think there's maybe two examples you could give. It's like, well, if ROAS is working, maybe we don't need to worry as much about the reach on it or the unique reach on it. But it might be a secondary thing where we say, hey, we see ROAS, and then we look at that, and it's like it's much lower than our account average, and that's an indication that we're reaching new people, as an example. On the flip side, it's like, well, if it's not working, and we go look at this, and it's super high, or especially when it's overlapped with our current reach, it's super high. It's like, well, then we haven't reached enough new people. It's like we worked with a whitelisting partner that didn't make our current pocket better or didn't expand into a new pocket. Am I understanding that correctly of how you're using it, or any other ways you're using it?
Yeah, that's how I would look at it. I think you captured it well there, in the sense that ROAS is, obviously that's super important and that is enough in most cases, but there is some benefit to knowing whether you're reaching a new audience or not. And that might indicate that you can push hard on this. It might indicate, like, if you have a goal of having a more creative diversity and reaching new audiences, that CPMR can be one indicator that that's happening, and then you might be able to push harder on that. The other thing is that, and we're kind of jumping around to different things, but is using sort of the campaign compare overlap report. And because another weird thing about sort of net new reach and all of that is that you can't really isolate one campaign in that first type in a monthly rolling reach setting, because the way that we're relying on Meta to deduplicate everything for us. And so we have to use the whole, and it does that at the account level. It won't necessarily do that for us. If you just have one campaign selected, then you don't know, were they included in any other campaign, right? So, because initially when I was working on this tool, I was like, yeah, we should build this out and for campaigns and ads. You can't actually do that. But what you can do is do an overlap report. And so an overlap report is basically you would take the account reach for, let's say, a 30-day period. And let's say that's 1,000, to keep it easy. And then you have the total account reach without that particular campaign selected. And then in that way, you find out how much is that campaign contributing that is not being contributed by other campaigns. What you'll find, it's really interesting, is if you have any retargeting campaigns, sure enough, they have 100% overlap. Also, you'll find that a lot of your like broad campaigns have maybe like 40, 50% overlap. And then when you find, in my experience, something that's really working well in terms of reaching new audiences, it might be, I don't know, it could be in the 20s, 30s, at 40% overlap. Those are all sort of winning numbers. But so that's what I'll use as well for my whitelisting ads too, is I'll do the campaign overlap and see, is this reaching audiences that aren't being reached by all my other campaigns? And that's a positive indicator to me if my ROAS is also good. If it has, its own pocket and I'm not getting anything good out of it, it could be garbage, right? And so of course you want to use those other things to keep you grounded, those other metrics.
So if you go through, so just to recap, kind of thinking about this. So people go through, they're having trouble scaling, having trouble identifying what's really working. You're going in and you're looking at, obviously you're going to look at rolling reach. Then you're going to look at incremental cost per net new reach. You're looking at CPMR, which is essentially what we talked about, the calculation. Then frequency. What other things are you looking at? I mean, obviously you're looking at sort of the classics, but those are some of the deeper metrics. And right now, what are the most common things you see when you're auditing? And by the way, we'll put all these calculations and everything in the show notes. So that's no problem. We'll have that for you, that, you can run that through. You can also sign up for Kurt's tool, which we'll have in the show notes as well, called Ad Insights, that does all this for you as well. But I'm just curious, like, what else are you looking at to diagnose, and what are the main things you see?
Yeah, I mean, so it depends on what I'm trying to figure out. But if we're sort of pulling on this same thread, and trying to think about creative, and if we're burning out or we're kind of circling the drain in terms of finding new audiences, then I'll pull up one of my my reports here. Hopefully that doesn't
Yeah, I
mess
mean,
anything
I
up.
think we're talking about is that classic where people feel like they're hitting a wall. And I get this all the time. right? Like founder members, hey, it's been that they're a brand owner, someone in-house or an agency. Hey, we're hitting a wall, and we're talking about more creative and more diverse creative, which is good. And they're getting there, but they're trying to prove the point to the client that what they've been doing isn't working. So I'm wondering if there's other sort of pieces that go into this that are a little bit deeper than just saying, well, your ROAS is going down.
One of the things that I look at is, and you can calculate this yourself, or you can use, a tool to do it, but it's the percentage of net new reach. And so that percentage, I'm looking at that over time. And if that percentage is going down, and we're having trouble getting it to move up at all, that's a signal. And so I guess that sort of ties me into maybe some of the things that I've seen that actually can impact that number. So I guess that's one of the big things that I'm looking for when I'm doing, the audit is our net new reach, and if we're able to increase that. If we're not able to increase that and we're not happy with the metrics that we're seeing, then I start looking to some of these other strategies. And we might have brushed on a few of them real quick, but one is whitelisting and partnership ads. That has been an unlock for a few of the brands that I've been working on. If you haven't been doing that, then you'll probably notice an immediate difference. If you set up one that's working well, you notice you'll get cheaper, CPMRs on that. It can scale more. And for Black Friday, that was some of our best performing campaigns.
Black Friday is an interesting time, but is it because you're going deeper and finding somebody that better resonates, like a human being that better resonates with your existing audience, or because you're expanding into a new audience?
I think it's a combo for sure, and it also will tie into the creator's audience that they've already built and those signals. And I think that that's a big part of it. I guess it takes a concerted effort to really produce diverse creative and to have like big swings that are really different than what you've been doing. I think it is a real challenge. And one of the easiest ways to do it is just to get another brain in the room, or to hire another brain. That's a simpler way to do it quickly. If you're trying to systematize it, I guess that's sort of a different story, but for your team. But yeah, I think you're definitely tying into their audience and all the signals that they bring, with them when you're using their profile to advertise. And then you touched on the rest of it, was just their delivery, their messaging. That's all going to be potentially different than the way that you've been doing it in the past, and their approach. But yeah, I think they bring with them an audience, and that's probably a big component.
I'm curious about the tactics, and I'm still curious to come back to like the predictive piece. We've rolled off that. So if you have any additional things, like, okay, whitelisting is an example that helps with this. If you have any other ones, would love to dig into those, or the predictive, whichever path you want to go down.
As far as predictive, I guess I just think about sort of the whole analogy of like, squeezing the sponge. And so let's say for Black Friday, I mean, one of the big goals that we had for our client accounts was to increase our reach in the months leading up to Black Friday so that we would have a nice audience to draw from, and squeeze the sponge, as they say. So squeezing the sponge is basically converting that audience, monetizing them, and getting them to purchase. And so this could be running a big sale. There's different ways that you can do that. But so in the sense that it's predictive, well, you might have a really strong ROAS, and it might be because you're burning through your retargeting audiences, and hitting them really hard. You're not reaching any new people. You might have a really high frequency, and that might work for a short period of time, right? Like a Black Friday or some other event like that, a product launch. Interestingly, too, like when I looked at our Black Friday campaigns using these tools, Black Friday, like CPMR for many of the accounts was really low. And it wasn't like that for all of them. It was actually when I'm looking at right now, where it was the opposite, where I'm kind of trying to figure out exactly how that, happens or why. But a lot of times they're hitting audiences that you've already got. And so the overlap is really high. That I think is pretty general across most of the accounts I've looked at, is the Black Friday accounts. Campaign overlap really high, and you're just squeezing the sponge. So I guess the point in it being predictive is just that if you're not reaching those new audiences, even if your other metrics like your MER looks good and your ROAS looks good, you still could be headed for difficulty in the future if you're not, still growing.
So the way that you use your tool is, as an example, is like on a weekly, monthly, whatever basis, you're looking at whatever version of the reporting, whether it's a sliding or the other one. And what you see from time to time is that the rolling reach starting to go down, as an example of one of the numbers that you might be looking at, can precede ROAS starting to come down. And like that allows you to proactively say, hey, We are good with what we have for now, and that might get us through the next month, but it's probably not going to get us through the one after that. And so we need to practically figure out, is it the messaging that we're currently doing that's not working within the pocket of audience, or we need to figure out a new audience to go to. I know Zach's not here, but like an example of this for him is like, Hollow has sold socks, and Hunters is the one that we always got to go to. But if you go look at the Hollow website right now, it's like they started with messaging to a bunch of different types of people, and then they started making products for those types of people. And so at some point, the messaging wasn't good enough to convert the runner, and they had to make a runner product, or, I guess a random example. So there's different ways to try to get your existing pockets to convert better. But I guess, like, am I understanding that correctly in that it precedes the ROAS dropping, and that's where you can pause and say, hey, might not be a problem today, but it's going to be a problem tomorrow.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep.
Nice.
Let me ask about two things as it relates to the actual tactical ad buying of this. So one is exclusions and how that affects rolling reach, how that affect AMER, right? Like, I'd be curious of your take on what you typically do with exclusions. And the second one is bidding, right? I think that this big account that I was talking about earlier, we audited that, and they have cost caps, and they don't appear to have changed them ever. And I mean, as far as I can tell, they haven't been changed very often. They're not adjusting them. So therefore, they're running out of people, really.
Well, exclusions, it's funny, using sort of like an overlap report. So there's this other part of the reporting, right? There's the new, engaged, and customer breakdown, right? And so you can set, let's say, your website visitors in your engaged list, or your email list, or any of these things, and your customer lists, and then you can exclude them, and then you can see them pop right up in those columns when you run the report, right? So like, exclusions are super porous, sometimes, which has been funny to see. So I tighten them up, and I put in everything I can, make sure that I have synchronized Klaviyo segments, and that everything is being updated. So I'll rely on that as much as I can, but they only go so far. Oh, bidding. I think that this is, not clear cut. There's people argue about this, I guess is what I'm saying. So, but I think that the argument is that, or one argument is that, yeah, running cost caps is going to restrict the number of new people that come into your funnel, right? And that your ads reach, because you're constraining who you're willing to talk to by putting that bid cap on there. And if you can't reach them, underneath that bid, you're saying to Meta, don't go there. And so it does, I think the argument is that it can go after lower funnel audiences and just keep churning through those lower funnel audiences. I've been looking for, good examples of that. And I've got accounts, it's funny, before this, I was thinking about like all the rules that I break that like are sort of best practices. I was like, that'd actually be kind of interesting. Is like, what is all the stuff that I do that everybody says you shouldn't do? But anyway, as I was going down that line, I've got an account that's all cost caps. Generally. And we've been able to grow it. We've been able to grow it month over month, for the last year. So you can definitely grow an account on cost caps. But I think that, yeah, you have to be dynamic with the bids. Just for example, like with Black Friday, I mean, I raised, our bids like 25%. There was still no spend, so I'm cranking them up. And then what I did, is that I also launched a lowest cost at the same time. I took those post IDs, put them in the lowest cost, and that was kind of training wheels for the cost cap campaign. I was able to blast money through that lowest cost, maybe teach Meta about these ads and who's buying. And then that bought me a little bit of time also to adjust the cost caps. And then the cost caps actually turned out to be our highest efficiency ads for this account for Black Friday. It turned out great, but we had to use lowest cost to get there, I think. Otherwise we would have missed out.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting in terms of are there other bid types that you've used that have helped in the pursuit of scale? I mean, the reason I ask this is because I think it's never all or nothing, right? And like, in pursuit of scale, you have to use, I think, all bid types almost, like to sort of fit, I mean, we talk about creative a lot, which is huge. Obviously, we know this. We have like 17 episodes on creative from this podcast, but like, what, in terms of bidding is another one. And I think these types of reports, illuminate that. Are there other types of bids that you see, or I guess I'd be curious too, like anything else that you think is overlooked as it relates to scaling?
Sure. Yeah. So as just bids specifically, or I guess campaign types, like going with a highest value versus, any other type. Highest value, I've seen when I can get it to work well, I'll run that campaign overlap report. And And you'll see that it does have a lower overlap oftentimes than campaigns using the same build that are all on like lowest cost, for example. And so it does seem to be tapping into different audiences, which is I think one of the arguments. The other one is like going with a ROAS, a max ROAS. I've got an account running almost exclusively on max ROAS, and because they've got a huge catalog, like 14,000 products, right? And so it's really difficult to segment things out by sort of an AOV range or anything like that. We're like, all right, let's just go for a target ROAS. But as soon as we did experiment with other ad types just in the last couple of weeks, and as soon as we introduced those other bid types, you could see the overlap was very low on those. So that just shows me, I think, that using bid types does tap into different audiences, different sections of these audiences. And you can see it really clearly when you look at overlap reports.
Yeah.
Which ones to use, you have to test, right? They don't, right? I mean, so I couldn't say which ones specifically to use, but it's a combination. And I try them, and I think you tap into different, layers of the audience.
Yeah. When you flip over to value, do you have to do a little bit of value optimization, generally speaking, at least from what I've seen, so there's 2 points that you're making. The first is that the overlap there might not be overlap. There might be, but there might not be, just due to the nature of how Meta is deciding to go. I think something that's interesting I'm curious about is what happens to your cost per reach on those value campaigns, though. Do you have to kind of, do you assume that they're going to be higher just due to the nature of like how they're doing the bidding, and then you just have to kind of know mentally like, hey, I'm just expecting CPMR is going to go up as a result of this, and I'm okay with that in the short term, just to because I'm sacrificing that for net new people into the funnel, right? Okay.
That's exactly how. Yep. And so I just sort of make that mental adjustment, and then I can compare it against other campaigns of the same type.
Cool. And then on exclusions,
comparative view.
Sweet. I just wanted to go back to exclusions really quick, if that's okay. Are you actively going and adding exclusions to force Meta to try and reach net new people? Is that something that you're doing across the board or even in a few accounts?
I have, and I wouldn't say that's a strategy that I'm really using right now, because it hasn't been super effective, because I already have pretty strict exclusions in there. And so if I'm going to go, and make it even tighter, I guess I'm already excluding like my website visitors and my existing customer list. Yeah. If I'm just going for net new reach, then I'll exclude, and then you'll still see that it hits tons of website visitors, But yeah, it depends on the account, though.
No great way around it. That's why I think that's interesting to point out, because I think there's been a lot of we're not using exclusions, who cares, send it type thing, right? And using the creative to do it. And I still think we're all trying to, when you scale, you're trying to reach net new people. And I think that having hard exclusions is useful. As along with creative diversity, creative type diversity, using, a product catalog as well. All of these things that we talk about. I think we can use the last few minutes of our podcast to do a new segment I'd like to introduce called Let's Talk As If We Weren't Recording. Because sometimes we get caught up trying to sound really smart, but what's some shit that you guys want to talk about as if we weren't recording? For me, on this scaling part and all of this, is that I think that the diagnostic side of a lot of these accounts is that a lot of people are just reporting on what we all learned, like MER, just like MER or like ROAS, and that's what you're doing. And so much more of it is around how are you talking to new people? It becomes much more simple to me. Right? You're figuring out, all right, on that new reach, who even cares about this, and is this resonating with them? That to me is so much of it. I don't know how you guys feel. Again, yeah, I mean, we're not recording, although we are, but pretend we're not.
Yeah, I mean, if you feel like you're making diverse ads and you go and look at your rolling reach and it's not going up, or if it's not going up as fast as you want to, or it dropped off really quickly, then I think the mirror that you're holding up and looking into is saying they're not really diverse, or they're not, they may look different, but they're not hitting a different motivator or a new angle that you haven't pursued, or the same angle presented in a different way from a different persona type. So yeah, no, that's interesting. And when I say this, I'm the one holding the mirror and looking into it. So yeah, no, Kurt, I'm curious if you have anything that you would add to.
Well, I mean, I guess the thing that I just jumping a little bit is, one of the big questions I have is just upper funnel objectives, and how does that play? What's really working these days?
Yeah.
Because I can raise like net new reach through the roof, right? With like, with the traffic campaign. And it's also funny too, like last month, we had one of those like runaway ads that just like the CPMs were like for no good reason, $2, you know, anyway, it was ridiculous. But the traffic was just garbage. So I've been experimenting with like add to cart optimizations, view content optimizations. And one thing though that I have found that is working really well is quizzes. They have really low overlap for whatever reason. I'm still optimizing for purchase too, though.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
It makes sense.
It must
like
be the
it's like
creative.
diversifying on, well, it's diversifying too on, they're looking at the time on site that they're spending there, and it's a different interaction. And it's like diversifying on like an advertorial type of thinking too, right? Like it's, I mean, I think we focus a lot on the ad itself. We also obviously, in the episode with Ryan Doney, you can listen to, it's like the landing page is a huge part of it. And if there's something that we can all learn from, I would say Zach's team, one of the things is they're diversifying the places they're sending people in a pretty regular basis and the types of things they're putting them through. And like, if you think about it from a consumer, like you go through, like I honestly, like I got sent freaking like Faraday and all these websites, and I like even Huckberry, like I look at them and I'm like, there's a lot of freaking shirts on here. I have no idea like if I like any of these. Like they look nice, I guess, but like as a guy, you know what I mean? You're like looking at this. It's like there's overwhelming choice. So like if I went through and took a quiz, it's like, what are you trying to solve? It's like, well, I'm trying to solve like this. This is the type of weather I live in. And it's like, it suggests you a shirt. I'm like, great. That's why I go to ChatGPT to ask it, like, do I need to go to the bathroom? Because I don't know sometimes, so I have to go. But I think that personalization is huge. And I think that's another good way on scaling and diversifying. And just to your point about upper funnel objectives, I just was with the head of growth for Hollow, Kevin, who is, lives in Denver. We were spending time together, and I was asking him about some of the things they're doing, and they're doing upper funnel objectives. It's hard to measure, but they're going into places where they're trying to push retail throughput, and it works. Like they're pummeling people's eyeballs with stuff about Hollow socks, and turns out there's been better sell through in Dick's Sporting Goods and Shields, and it's targeted. So I think that does contribute, and that obviously helps net new reach, of course, but it does help you reach new people, which I think is a part of it. As you start to scale, as you really start to spend a ton of money. I mean, they spend obviously way more than I think the average person, but I think that there's validity in that. And I
I
think
just pulled up a
advertisers are too myopic. You know what I mean? Like we were all taught in like thinking in this like little tunnel sometimes. And I think sometimes like got to think a little bit bigger and try some stuff out of the box. Because the playbook, if there's anything we know about meta advertising, there are no playbooks. The playbook that you have today is like not going to work next week necessarily.
I pulled up a really specific example. So this is my last piece from my end. You mentioned the landing pages, and I was really curious. The quiz, Kurt, when you mentioned that, I wanted to dig into the most obvious landing page win that we have this year, and I'm looking at their cost per CPMR as well. I'm looking at their CPMR month over month, and there was no new like standout ad. But what I do know is that month to month, there was from April into May, there was a new landing page, and the ad going to that page was the same. And the following month into June was the same. And the only thing that changed is CPMR actually came down, but over the course of both of those months. And we increased spend 50% month over month. To your point on quizzes, and Andrew, to your point on landing pages and unlocking more, it's like the landing page itself actually unlocked better cost per 1,000 reach, because I'm assuming it's speaking better to the audience that we're actually reaching, and then also forcing meta down the path of that audience and optimizing for those folks. So, yeah. Anyways, I need access to this tool ASAP.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see with the overlap.
Yeah, Kurt. So
like
talk about the tool a little bit. So it pulls rolling reach. So talk about like briefly and where people can get it.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, so this is something that Andrew, you and I have been working on putting this tool together. So it has a monthly rolling reach calculator. So all you do is you log in with your Facebook account, and it connects to all your ad accounts. So you can run the report on any account you're connected to. It'll build a table. So it does the pretty graphs, and it also builds a table that you can export to CSV if you want to mess with the data, in Sheets or whatever, or put it in reporting. It does that second report that we were talking about with the sliding window. It'll do campaign and ad set, overlap reports. And then we're working on some other cool, reports that are still yet to come. But it also does like the audience segment breakdowns, like with new, existing, and engaged, customers over time or segments over time. But anyhow, if you can go and sign up for free, it's tools.producedept.co, and you'll get access to all the reports right there. Super simple to use. There's a little button on there. If you have any questions, it'll ring me. If you have any new reports you want to add, hit the button, let me know, and we'll work on it.
Building a report for the people is what you're doing out here. That's what we're doing. We're building reports for the people. Great to have you. Thanks for being here. And Brad, it's always wonderful to see your face. If you love this episode or you have thoughts, feel free to email me, andrew@foxwelldigital.com. Brad is brad@sexyman.net. No, I'm just kidding. But just email me. I'll get you in touch with these guys. And thanks for being here. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Bill.
It's just hilarious watching her, like just sitting quietly. This episode is brought to you by the Foxwell Founders membership that Andrew and his wife Gracie run. It has been absolutely pivotal for not just the Homestead team, but the Easy Street Brands team. We've had, I don't even know how many members are currently in there that are part of our ecosystem. But when it comes to anything from learning ads to understanding what's going on to building an agency to knowing retention, it's been absolutely useful for our team when they get stuck or they need help to just go there and resource all the other experts. So definitely would recommend it for anybody that's looking to, take it a step deeper, try to get a little bit more knowledge on growth marketing and all the world D2C is.
I think one of the most incredible things about it is you can just like open up the Slack group every single day. You can pin your favorite channels for the topics you care most about. And like every day there's going to be somebody who just like, because they want to contribute something valuable to the group, you can go learn something every single day and it's going to be extremely useful. There's some ballers in there that you just get like the benefit of learning from that, like for the cost, like you couldn't pay them that for their time, but through the membership, like you get access to some incredible people and tons of resources.
I think the biggest resource to me too is like the events that Foxwell Founders does. They've been able to do some, even in Wisconsin, even in the boring state of Wisconsin, which is pretty awesome, getting people together in person and able to have really just like honest conversations of what's going on, what's working for them now, where they're at in their business, and knowing that there's going to be, like Brad said, some real killers in the space in this membership that can help and are willing to take the time and help. So that's been a huge part of why a lot of our team have really enjoyed it as well.
And applications are now open if you're looking to join. So
Foxwell Founders, foxwellfounders.com. Go check it out. Go apply.
The only way that we grow this podcast is by you sharing it with your friends. Honestly, like reviews kind of don't really mean anything too much anymore. They're really meaningful, but they don't do a lot for the growth of the podcast. And so sharing YouTube links, sharing Spotify links, sharing Apple, whatever we call it under the podcast app now, anything you can share, the better we're going to be. Guys, anything else you want to say on this?
Yeah, please go check us out on YouTube. Rack up those views for us. We'd love to see it. And then subscribe. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube as well.
And I relentlessly refresh the YouTube comments because it dictates my mental health for the day. So please say something nice about all of us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you
everybody
for listening, honestly.